All right. Test, 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 test. Hello, everybody. And I want to welcome you to another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, and not having a clear plan is the enemy. And using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is an amazing way for you to find freedom, find opportunity, build passive wealth, without having to suffer the time consequences of like a 1031 exchange and so many other things. And we're excited about this next episode. I have a new client, and through a amazing one of our strategic alliances financial advisor with us. It's actually going to be kind of a rare episode where we have two people at the same time that I'm interviewing. It's going to be a lot of fun because we're going to be diving into essentially how to sell your mobile home parks and defer paying capital gains tax, right? Which is a powerful way for you to build more wealth. Let's face it, tax is 25 to 50% of your gain, and you might be wanting to build a plan that gives you some freedom and some flexibility. So I am joined by Gary Lester and Jake Carpenter. We'll start with Jake Carpenter. Jake, how are we doing, brother?
Doing really good, Brett. It's good to be here and good to see you again.
Absolutely. And so, Jake, for those getting to know you, would you give a little bit more about your story and your focus?
Yeah, so I'm a very unique investment advisor in that I'm a very real estate centric, or real estate focused investment advisor. Most of my clients are older. They're looking to exit their business, their real estate portfolio, their farms, commercial real estate, and take a more active position where they're continuing to remain in real estate, but taking a passive position in being able to continue to receive income without having to deal with trash, toilets, tenants, liability, and having to go into the office to make the income come in.
Absolutely. Jake, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given us to be a blessing and help to others. So what would you say, looking back, growing up, who was Jake, and maybe what gifts was he given that helps you to help and bless your clients today?
Well, so that's a really good question, Brett. I grew up wanting to help and serve. I grew up in a really small central Washington city. Most people may have never heard about it, Moses Lake, Washington. And I was a big dreamer. I just wanted to help people. I wanted to do whatever I could to help people. It was very relationship focused. And that's really been the blessing to my current business is, I just build relationships. And out of that, I've been able to work with a lot of folks on an advisory level. And it helps me work in our macro advising firm, which is nothing more than, bringing their CPA and their attorney, real estate broker, financial planner to the table to really solve three-dimensional issues through the relationship building process. So that's really my gift, is the gift of service and building relationships. It's really, focusing on the long-term relationship and working with clients.
And I can't speak for that too. Jake and I had a chance to meet each other about 3.5, 4 years ago now. And it's amazing to do business with somebody that is A, so down to earth, B, so experienced, C, so calming. You also maybe can't tell, but on video, he's actually really strong. And so first I met him, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy works out maybe every other, hour, it feels like, but you have a really calming demeanor, very servant, and a big heart, and just love serving and helping people. And you keep cool under fire, which is such an amazing quality for people who want a part of a dream team. You want a financial planner, advisor, consultant to help you stay calm under fire. So Jake, I absolutely see that gift. That being said, I want to bring in Gary Lester, and Gary Lester actually is kind of the star of the show here. Actually, he's an amazing gentleman that is one of Jake's clients who was introduced to me about maybe 90 days ago or so, if I had to guess it. But Gary Lester, for those getting to know you, would you tell them a little bit about your story and your focus?
Yeah. So I live in Moscow, Idaho. I, basically been an entrepreneur all my life. When I was in graduate school, I started an environmental consulting company, which I still own and operate after almost 30 years. And I'm hoping here in a short time, I'll be able to get that company to the point where I can sell it and retire. But as part of the entrepreneur itch back in 2010, I needed to diversify my income stream a little bit, and I started investing in mobile homes themselves, individual mobile homes on rented lots in people's parks. I guess one thing led to another, and after having about 25 or 30 of those under my belt, I came across, I started thinking about, what would it be like to actually own a park? So I did a little research, found Frank Rolfe's Mobile Home University, went down to, and I think it was 2014 or maybe 2015, I can't remember, went down to his boot camp in Las Vegas. Probably the best $3,000 I've ever spent in my life, if you include the travel and lodging. It was great. And I came out of there with a goal I said, within 3 years, I'm going to have enough capital. I'm going to buy myself a park. Long story short, it happened in 1 year. And so in 2015, September 2015, I bought my first park. Doing that all on the evening and the side while carrying a day job. And 7 years later, with a 5-park portfolio, and got an offer that I couldn't refuse and sold the whole thing off. And fortunately, I was introduced to Jake. My wife introduced me to Jake earlier this year. Got the ball rolling, and Jake introduced me to you, Brett.
It's really cool how that all works out. I love that you took action after studying at a conference, and you typically, you set a goal and you take some action. And I would say things can happen faster than you think, right? But now fast forward, you have these mobile home parks. By the way, Moscow, Idaho, it just sounds like it sounds Russian, first of all, right? Moscow, right? So I always kind of laugh about that. But it's Boise, Idaho. I mean, essentially since 2015, it's exploded as one of the fastest, growing states and appreciation. And so you're able to ride that wave. So you're feeling really great, and then all of a sudden you're going to sell. And by the way, I think you sold it at maybe the opportune time, right? There's a number of reasons why with the market shifting and everything else. But walk us through that step when all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. I got a great offer, but I have all this capital gains tax. What did that feel like when that was all happening?
Oh man, it was, it was a kind of an emotional battle, to be honest with you, because my goal was to divest out of my day job, keep the parks as my income stream, right? So I would be more free with my time. I wouldn't be trading my hours for my salary day in and day out. And I'd be getting this not totally passive, but semi-passive income with the parks. Well, last 2 years, I've been, turning away offers left and right. And, that's a hot space, these mobile home parks, right? So, and I just kept my biggest park, which was the first one I owned, I kept getting approached, and they kept giving me offers. The offers kept going up and up and up. I'm like, man, this is going on here. So I just figured I'm going to write it out, and that's going to be my retirement plan. One of those brokers called me here a few months ago, and we got to chat, and I said, and I always tell them, thank you for your interest, but I'm actually looking at buying more parks. So, okay, I'll take your name and let me know what you're interested in, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I had that same conversation with this particular broker, but I made an offhanded comment. I said, what I'd like to do is to get my portfolio value up to 10 million and then sell the whole thing and just go passive. And he goes, well, what do you got? And I told him, and I figured I need to buy at least one more park, and it was going to take me a couple of 3 years to get there. 3 days later, he calls back and says, I got your number. I got you an offer for $10 million. I said, what? So I was very skeptical. A lot of times the broker will come in and got somebody to give this offer, and then they'll try and, scratch you down and, discount. And I said, here's the deal. I said, I'm not doing any of that. I says, if you think you can get me 10 million at closing, then we can talk, but I don't want to deal with any of this, chiseling down kind of stuff. And, he said, no, we got a solid buyer. He's got 55 parks in the Northwest. We work with him a lot. He's good to his word. So it really became a reality. And then came the real psychological battle for me was I'm like going this way, and then all of a sudden it's a hard right, and the adjustment period, it took 2-3 weeks for me to get my head around that my future was changing, right? My future plans for retirement, it was going to be completely different. So, so anyways, I got my head around it. Fortunately, like I said, my wife had introduced me to Jake earlier in the year, and Jake and I had been talking, and this concept of the Deferred Sales Trust came up, because I was going to be faced with $1 to $2 million capital gain tax bill easily. And so, man, I don't want to do that. But
so we'll go into that in a minute here. I want to pick up on something here, right? Because I think this is so crucial. People get into investment real estate, especially as the side investment, the side thing, to gain some freedom, right? Some retirement freedom, some cash flow freedom, some diversification of cash flow freedom, to not have to work the W-2 job and or do the other, or build the business, or do all the things. But sometimes it can become the full-time thing, or more than you thought it would be. And that in itself can be stressful, right? And overwhelming, and a little bit like, gosh, like why am I working all this hard when I've made these millions, right? I've really hit it well. And so, but there's a certain number here, right? And so now, wow, now I can actually, now I want to get out. So that it's this search for freedom is what I'm getting at, right? And so now step in. You get a call from Jake, or you get introduced to Jake, and maybe this is actually a good part for Jake to jump in. So Jake, you get the call from Gary, and Gary's walking you through what's happening. And so take it from there, Jake.
Yeah. So incidentally, this is where a lot of people are at. And the funny thing about this is of probably 10 people that I talk to, when you sit down and truly paint the picture of, are you really moving in a direction of freedom? And if you could pull the ripcord and sell it all, but not have to pay the capital gains tax now, and defer that out and create additional income and growth with it, but in a passive position, no trash, no toilets, no tenants, no liability, no having to show up at the office in order for the paycheck to come in, probably 8 out of 10 would say, that is really the freedom that I'm looking for. And so, fortunate enough, I was able to meet Gary, I don't know, was that 9 months or so before this all took place?
Yeah, probably 6 to 9 months. Yep.
So Gary and I had a chance to sit down, and I kind of painted the picture of, hey, when the time comes, here's what we do. Here's what my team, Brett and me and our team does to defer capital gains tax and take you from an active position where we sell it and we redeploy assets in a passive position where we have the true freedom. And so that was the seed that was placed in the back of his mind, so that when he got to this position of, oh my gosh, this is really going to happen, and we've got a $2 million potential plus tax bill nut to crack, he thinks of me and says, okay, Jake, was that thing that you talked about, was that real? Was that really real? Because I'm in that position now. So let's have that conversation.
Yeah, Gary, what do you want to add to that? And I think that's, and before you answer that, clarifying your B, right? Where you really want to be. And sometimes, A is where we're at, B is where we want to be. And sometimes it's something that, for the longest time, we've been told to 1031, swap until you drop, just keep buying. You only refinance and cash out. Don't ever sell. Just buy more. And just, you never, you just do this, and it's going to give you the things that you want. But at a certain point, you're like, well, maybe I have enough, and maybe now's a good time to sell. And oh, by the way, you can also back and invest into other deals. So it's not as if, this is what I love about the Deferred Sales Trust compared to the Delaware Statutory Trust, right? Where should Gary want or to go back, or need to go back into deals where he can run stuff, he can partner with the trust, and he can do that. So he's not giving up the ability to be active. He can still be entrepreneurial, but for this period of time, he's got a chance to be completely passive and see how that water feels swimming around. Gary, you want to add anything to that?
I think for me, I knew that what I ultimately wanted to do, I knew what my ideal life was going to look like, and what I wanted it to look like. I had a pretty good vision for that, which I think that's part of the psychology. Not a lot of people do. Or a lot of people, just say, I'm just going to exist and go with the flow. But I had kind of a plan for what I liked, and part of it was, as far as the abundance mentality, wealth is enough money, but enough time. Time was the key for me, So and I know. Time to build the mobile home portfolio, time for my day job. It's all kind of trading time and money and opportunities. So for me, it was just, how do I get the time? How do I free up my time? How do I simplify? The 10 million I had in my mind as like, that gives me enough for a passive income strategy to live off of that forever. I don't need to be continually building, continually growing and trying to, that's just not what I need to do. I just want to know that I want to retire by the time I'm 55 or sooner. And I want to enjoy life, and I don't want to work myself into the grave. So
there it is. You nailed it, right? And so enter the deferred sales trust now. So now let's transition to Jake tells you there's a way to do this, right? And it's something perhaps you had never heard of before, or you thought it was something different, but walk us through that aha moment and then just the process of like, oh, well, is this actually real? Does this actually work? Is it legal? Could it work for me? Walk people through that for the first time who are listening, just going, man, I've got $10 million worth of mobile home parks, and I thought I was just going to do the 1031 swap until I drop, never sell and just buy more. But I'm kind of, getting a feel for that more passive type of way of doing things. So walk us through that journey of the deferred sales trust, Gary.
Yeah. So I knew one thing was that I knew enough about, I am not a real estate expert, right? I don't claim to be that, but I got into the parks and it took on a life of its own. I got passionate about it and got 5 parks under my belt. One thing I knew I didn't want to do was deal with a 1031 and the hassles and the timeframes and the stress of trying to sell and compliance and all that stuff. It was too complicated. I just didn't want the stress of that. So Jake, when he had talked about basically the beauty, one of the beautiful things about the deferred sales trust is, you don't have to deal with all that. So it really gave me a lot more flexibility with time as far as how to deal with, I can just park it and leave it for a while and figure out what I want to do, hit pause for a couple of years, or, and also the other thing that was really attractive to me was the amount of, you don't have to invest in like kind real estate. You can invest in whatever you want. If you want to do crypto, if you're nuts, you want to do that, you can do passive investments. You could do stocks, bonds, equities, whatever. You could do real estate. You could buy businesses. You could do hard money lending to angel investing, whatever you want to do. Total freedom, essentially. So very attractive to me. And it was a challenge getting up the learning curve. And I'll be honest, I'm far enough up the learning curve to give me confidence in the vehicle and that it will work. I live in a small town. My CPA I've been with for 30 years. He was extremely skeptical. He goes, nope, that's on the IRA's dirty dozen list. You can't use that. So, I'm like, well, I don't think these guys would tell me something and put their name out there and tell me something that's totally illegal and expect to continue to be out from behind bars for long. So, it was 3 or 4 calls with my CPA, Jake, with Brett, with the tax attorney that the trust uses to get my attorney to come on board. And he did. So he ran some numbers for me. Here's what you look like if you paid all the taxes now and invested. And then outside of the trust, here's what you'd look like if you deferred, stayed in the trust, did the same investments, and I'd be, it was noticeably better off within the trust. He had never heard of it. Most people I've talked to have never heard of it. And evidently it's for, high net worth transactions and it's not on Main Street per se, I guess, to the everybody on the street. But so anyways, I went for it, and I said, I'm going to figure this out. A lot of calls with you guys. I asked the same question 3 or 4 times, and until you mapped it out on a piece of paper for me on your screen, that I could understand it. I like pictures. And that brought us to the point where, okay, we're doing it and going through all that process. And I think we're fully, like just in the last couple of weeks, the trust is fully in receipt of all the funds, and Jake is deploying the investments as we'd planned.
Amazing. And by the way, if anyone wants to learn more about this or get started or get an inspiration for maybe you're looking at this, I want you to contact Jake Carpenter. I want you to call 509-591-9900. That's 509-591-9900. Or look up Jake Carpenter on LinkedIn, and he's out of Washington. He's amazing at what he does. And or if you call me, just let us know you saw this episode here. So Gary, I think that was incredible. And I love the way you put that asset class total freedom, right?
Mhm.
The time flexibility, you can hit pause for a couple of years, right? Especially right now, it's a great time to hit pause. The marketplace is in who knows what in 2023, right? Are we in a recession? Are we going into a recession? Is the real estate market going to crash? Are interest rates going to continue to go high or go low? And there's just so many moving parts, right? And you're in a small town, and I do want to address that part about the CPA, right? This is a very common thing. By the way, for the record, we've never been on the Dirty Dozen watch list. We're not on the Dirty Dozen watch list. Thousands of closes, billions under management, 25 plus year track record, over a dozen or 2 dozen, about 20 no change audits, state, federal, all of it. It's literally batting 1,000. It's perfect. However, there are those who do a search, and like anything on Google, there's certain bloggers that put out disinformation, misinformation, flat out just nonsense. And unfortunately, we have to overcome those things by explaining and showing and giving the evidence that it's not. But once you get through it, you're like, oh, okay, I'm good to go here, right? So, by the way, most qualified intermediaries don't want you to know about this. Most commercial brokers don't want you to know about this. They want to keep you, me, Gary, Jake in a 1031 exchange, just doing more and more deals. Either overpaying for properties or maintaining all that debt, equal or greater value. And then all of a sudden you're just even more stressed, you're more frustrated, and you're not diversified or liquid, and your debt paid off. And that's what the Deferred Sales Trust can give you. Jake, do you want to add anything to that as well? That you want to pick up on anything that Gary said or that I just said that you think the listeners could help with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest hurdle here, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, that sounds kind of nice, that true freedom isn't necessarily true freedom because I'm quitting my W-2 job and I'm in real estate. But true freedom is when you can do whatever you want and the paycheck comes in anyway. And a lot of times the keys to the kingdom here, folks, is your professionals, your CPA, your attorney, your financial planner. And, like Brett said, this has a 25-year track record based on an IRS tax code that's almost 98 years old or so. And it's nothing new. It's just 1031 exchanges have worked, especially in most of the country. But now we're in a different situation where inventory is low, prices are high, interest rates are high, inflation is up. So, 1031 exchanges, if you're older and want to truly exit and have a completely passive position and have a full menu of asset classes to redeploy into, then this may be something that's really great for you to consider.
Absolutely. So Gary, now walk us back through now. So now you're going through it, your CPA, by the way, we got on with your CPA. And I think at the end of I'm curious where you thought he landed eventually once he talked with us, right? He probably understood it better now. And he's probably like, okay. And he's like, I'm not the guy who's to defend you anyways, because the CPA tax return is lifetime audit defense. Like once he understands, like he's not on the hook for something that's brand new that he doesn't never heard of, right? So walk us through that, Gary.
Yeah. And that was, once he understood it, that it wasn't what was being referred to on the Dirty Dozen, then he had more questions and also he's a very kind of conservative CPA and he doesn't want to be on the hook, like you said. So he felt comfortable. He says, you just have to have your guys tell me you send me the forms I need for your returns, and I'll just compile them with your tax returns, which are about that thick anyways, because of my day job. I've got a company that we work in 50 states. So it's a huge tax return. So he came on board with it, and, he's just going to say, all right, just give me your information when it comes tax time. What else was
well, I was just going to say, like 99% of the time, that's exactly what happens. Like once the CPA is invited to the conversation, that realize that you're not asking them to be the brain surgeon to perform the surgery if things go wrong, right, with the IRS. And they've got a chance to actually talk with, CPAs like to talk with other CPAs and tax attorneys. Like okay. And then they honestly 99% join us, and then they're completely on board and they start sending us clients. But like anything else, it takes the know, like, and trust. It takes time to be with us. CPAs in general are very conservative and can be cautious, which is a good thing because they're protecting you. And most strategies have not been tested, have not been through the IRS fire. I don't have the perfect legal track record. And you, frankly, you want to run away from those that don't. But so the next step would be just, Gary, like, talk about the freedom, not only for the passive income, but also for the other things that you are looking for potentially for the future for investments, right? Because at the core of it, you are a commercial real estate investor and you like commercial real estate, right? So talk about just that flexibility of asset choice and having like someone like Jake on the team to give you a little bit different perspective and help you out with that.
Yeah, exactly. The stock market is just there's really nothing you can do about it. It goes up or it goes down or whatever. So you're just kind of betting long term that it's going to go up. And for those that are kind of waiting to retire and cash out and it tanks right before then, you're out of luck, right? And even my financial advisor with Edward Jones, whom I've been with for several years, he said, real estate's typically one of the better performing sectors in the stock market, REITs and stuff like that. So, but Jake and I have been talking about, I want to get into something that's going to have some better returns, 12, 15% or better. And that is essentially getting into real estate syndications, that Jake is well connected with. He's sourced several that we've looked at. Brett, you've introduced us to some of those. But I did still want to diversify. I didn't want to go all in on one project. So we've identified, I believe, three, that'll be three syndications that we're going to get in, diversity of risks, upside, capital appreciation, return. We've kind of blended that portfolio to average out a target return that I'm happy with, that will basically flow through enough passive income on the entirety of this pie that it dwarfs my salary from my day job, and it probably will be more money than I can spend without getting just silly. And I'll probably use those proceeds and put them back into growth somewhere else. So, I love the flexibility. I like going into real estate. I've talked to several individuals, young men, whatever, that I've come across in the parks or whatever. And I tell them, if you want to build wealth, either build your own business and work for yourself, or get rental properties or real estate of some sort and really just start scaling that up. And that's how you build wealth, the concept of leverage, etc. Borrow money and have other people pay it back for you. And
amazing. Amazing.
So
great insight. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to bring Jake back in and say, Jake, the value of diversification, right? Being you're a financial expert, right? And financial advisor. Just talk about the value of diversification in times like this, Jake.
Yeah, as an investment advisor representative, I'm a fiduciary, so I have to first and foremost do what's right for the clients. And one thing that's very basic is you got to maintain diversity. So, most of my clients, they don't want to be in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And that's where I'm kind of unique, is that, and Brett, and I know you and I are on the same page with this. Brett and I are both big believers in real estate. Our focus is on real estate. Our investors traditionally want to be primarily located in real estate, very similar to Gary. So we've got to bring some diversity. If they're going to be in real estate, there has to be some diversity within that real estate. So that's what I always try to work on, is get a true sense of where my investors want to be, as far as how much in real estate and what kind of diversities. And sometimes they want to be in different parts of the country. But that is a very, very important part. Is most of the cases, Brett, that you and I work on, both together and separately, it's the common thread is they don't want to sell the business, the farm, the investment real estate properties, and go into the stock market. They want to be diversified primarily out of the stock market. And so that's our focus, is really to hit the right returns, whether it be income or capital appreciation, and maintain that diversity in primarily a real estate focused position. And, that's where, Brett, you and I have our most success. And that's where I focus most as a investment advisor. Is I don't really want to push the stocks and the bonds and the mutual funds, because that's not where my clients are focused.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, just in case anyone's wondering, the note holder in this scenario, Gary, has lent money to the trust, right, in exchange for a promissory note. That's how how this thing works. And he's the creditor, and he's got to approve of the investments. Jake Carpenter is the financial advisor. His role is to really oversee the entire trust and just kind of help to navigate. Now, as a trustee, I have a fiduciary as well to Gary. And our goal is to pay him back and look at Jake, what he's doing, and also really just try to deliver what Gary really wants, right? And what he's comfortable with. And so together as a team, looking at these different investments, trying to navigate, but we want what the client wants. But it does take some diversification. It does take some liquidity. We can't put it all back into real estate all at once. And so we've got to work around some of the parameters, but what's neat is it can deliver on some of those freedoms. And so I don't know what the freedom is for you, but if you want to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust and how it can provide you some of these exit planning freedoms, again, for a business, a primary home, cryptocurrency, investment real estate, how it can save a failing 1031 exchange, you want to get with us, you want to contact on this particular podcast, you're listening to Jake Carpenter, call 509-591-9900. It's 509-591-9900. So Gary, we're going to go through kind of a little bit of a lightning round, but before we go there, is there anything that you would want to mention to somebody who might be in your shoes right now that maybe we didn't get a chance to mention or ask you that you want to maybe just bring up?
Time is precious. We only have so much of it, right? And I'm reminded of that right now. Here we are, December 22nd. This will be my dad's last Christmas with us. He's terminally ill with cancer, and so it just makes me more aware of, hey, every day counts, every day's precious, and I really want to spend it, with my loved ones. So if you're out there, thinking, all right, when can I, or when I have this much, then I will be happy, then I will be able to. It's like, maybe you've got it now, and maybe what you need right now is just a good hard look at the value of your assets. Maybe this will be a good fit for you. I talked to a friend of mine who was owned another park, and I just talked to him the other day, referred him to Jake, and he is going to sell his park right now. right now. He's like, yep. And I got him a buyer. So, same guy who bought my parks.
So Gary, let me make sure I catch that. Was he not going to sell? And then you basically have opened his mind to the Deferred Sales Trust, and now he's going to sell?
Yeah. Because I knew what he really wanted was passive income. And that was what he wanted. He had a mobile home park and a couple of duplexes in Moscow. And I said, Ken, you want just the income, don't you? He goes, yeah. And I said, I got something for you. So I introduced him to Jake, and within a matter of 3 or 4 days, they're off to the races.
So I want everyone to catch that, right? So whether you are a owner yourself, right, who's listening to this, whether you're a broker or financial advisor that has clients, well, at the end of the day, the moment you solve the problem, right, for yourself, or you're helping your clients solve that problem, is the moment it opens up the opportunity to move action. It's almost like like a dam, right? The river's hitting it's all building up, and all that pressure just building up, and nothing's going to move until that gets released, right? And so the Deferred Sales Trust can release those pressures that are holding you back, feeling trapped or frustrated, or just like, you're not sure how you're going to get there. And to Gary's point, look at your dollars, pre-tax, right? If you can have the pre-tax dollars, and you could be passive. And by the way, even a lot of times we're increasing the ROE, the return on equity, by 30, 40, 50, 60%. I just did another deal for a client, a $2.5 million sale here in Sacramento. Their NOI was $120,000. And so their ROE was around like 4.8% or something like that. Well, their NOI or their cash flow with the trust is about $200,000 or so after closing costs and everything else. Mm-hmm. And so they're going, wait, so I can increase my cash flow by about 60%. I don't have to deal with rent control, toilet trash liability, these fires that are going on in California, no more tenants, but I could also get back in if I want to. Like there's still that, that parachute, I could still pull that parachute and essentially get back into managing and having that, that full control running that deal. And they're like, yeah, wow. And it took them a while and they had to get used to it, but they closed. And now they're like, this is wonderful. Right. So any last thoughts on that, Gary?
No, that's it. I think you may be able to do it now, and it's totally flexible. So if things turn around in a couple of years and you want to you got to scratch an itch, you want to get back, you find a great deal, you got to go get it, you can do it. So it's not like you're just closing the door forever. It's just to hit pause, go passive, and be ready for the next opportunity if you want.
We're going to go on the lightning round in a second, but I want to see if Jake wants to add anything to that before we do the lightning round. Jake, what are you thinking?
The thing that stood out to me, Brett, that you just said is if you're a financial planner, CPA, attorney, real estate broker, if your client is in this kind of situation, calling me and getting the ball rolling doesn't mean that I'm replacing you as their financial advisor. Gary still has and works with his current financial advisor. Mm-hmm. We're just part of the team that comes in to take care of that specific area and release those tensions and, put someone in a better position. So we're just part of your team.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good point.
Yeah, that abundance mindset, right? We're all in this together, and we've got to be, right? Because the tax man is here. He's hungry because he's spending a lot, the $31 trillion. So it's not just about cash flow, it's about tax flow. And you got to have a dream team to help you that. And we want to become a part. We want to earn the right and the opportunity to become a part of your dream team. That being said, Mr. Gary and Jake, you guys both ready for the lightning round?
Yeah,
sure thing.
All right, here we go. So Gary, I'll start with you. If you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget and make sure to tell yourself to do?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I was doing it, to be honest with you. I was doing it. I had a plan and I was following it. And just if I was to put it into words, I'd say think long term and act immediately.
Excellent. Jake, same question. If you're back to your 25-year-old self, if you had a chance to go back, what would you tell yourself to do?
I would tell myself to get involved in real estate, get involved in passive real estate, and manage my tax flow.
Beautiful. Love it. Second question, Gary, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
The number one book I've gifted the most or recommended
or just your favorite one in the last year?
No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Who's it by?
Dr. Jake, I told him, but I forgot the guy's name, Goss or something like that. I can't remember the guy's name.
Sure, there's not any more than, there's probably just one No More Mr. Nice Guy book. So
No More Mr. Nice Guy. Yep.
Check it out, Jake.
Kill off the people pleaser in me.
There it is. Jake, what do you think?
My book?
Your favorite book? Yeah.
He's going to get it.
In the meantime, I'm going to plug my book, Building a Tax-Deferred Exit Strategy. Check that one out. Jake, what do you got?
It's called The Farm Whisperer. If you're in ag, farming, or even other, this is a great book. It's by David Specht. He's a local guy here that I work with. Very, very eye-opening for family-owned businesses and farms.
We're watching Yellowstone, right? And they have the whole ranch, right? And they're doing all this stuff. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you own a big farm or ranch and you have estate tax challenges, you're going to get with Jake and I immediately, because you have what's called a 40% death tax, which we want to eliminate by using the Deferred Sales Trust. It does take a sale. That is true. But we can get it outside your taxable estate without giving to charity, without buying a bunch of life insurance, without having to have 50 kids to gift it all away. So that's the DST plus. Okay. A little plug there. Okay. Next question. Favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by, Gary?
Ooh, probably, I think it was a John Maxwell quote. If not, he picked it up from somewhere. It was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So building that relationship, building trust, building credibility, and building empathy, and just listening, and then people will start looking to you for leadership.
Beautiful. I love that. Amen. Jake, same to you. What's your number one leadership or quote that you strive to live by?
I don't know the quote just exactly word for word, but I live by it, which is basically focusing on making sure enough people get what they want. And then eventually you kind of get what you want if you help enough people get what they want. I think it was Zig Ziglar or something.
I think so. It's an amazing quote. I love that quote.
Service, man. We got to serve.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Say second to last question. Gary, what are you most curious about?
Most curious about? Caribbean fish species. I'm an avid fisherman, and I want to spend more time figuring them out in their own habitat.
That sounds cool. Like to like fish them and then to taste them, or to just like hang out with them, like in a snorkel or
both. A lot of fishing. I'm an active fisherman. Yep.
That's great. Jake, same to you. What are you most curious about right now?
I'm curious about where, this Deferred Sales Trust mission is going to take us. There's a lot of people out there that need our help. And there's a lot of people sitting there that don't really know that they can do the things that they want to do right now. And that's really where I'm really curious, is to see how far this can take us in helping people.
Beautiful. I love it. Couldn't say it better. Last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Gary, after all your success, building all the wealth you've built, the businesses you've built, everything you've learned in your life, what do you practice to stay centered in your values? Maybe that's the habit or the thing that you're doing. And what also helps you to stay charged up to reach forward for new heights and new goals?
Ooh, yeah. So I, to stay centered in my values is, I'm a Christian, faith-based person. So daily time with God before I start the day. And that helps me really focus on the love that I have for others, just sharing the love that I have and passing it on. And that can translate into work meetings. It can translate into just interactions at the grocery store, whatever, just loving people, because that's how God loves me. So that is my key center point. And then to stay on that, Brett, you run your company on EOS. My company runs on EOS. My life runs on EOS. So every quarter I've got goals. I've got a life vision, and I've got quarterly goals for the 5 territories in my life, which are self, health, wealth, relationships, and business. And it tracks down to almost every day. What am I going to do today to move my life forward with those goals?
Amazing, Gary. Thank you so much. Jake, same question to you. What would you say the number one habit you do to practice staying centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
And I'm so thankful to have, relationships like Gary, but, to stay centered, it's very similar. I start my day with some Bible reading and prayer and thankfulness. I'm very thankful God has blessed me in every area of my life. I just try to make my priorities most important. I put God first and family next, and so on and so forth. And I try to just, serve people with all the health and the wealth and the strength that I have, and see if I can help them get to where they're going. And, just staying focused on the main thing. And Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added unto you." So keep my focus on that, and let God take care of the rest. God's
amazing. Hey, sorry, Jake. Sorry to cut you off. Go. Last thing.
Oh, God's been good to me.
I don't want to cut that off, baby. We don't want to cut God off. He's been good. Well, Jake, I want to thank you so much for sharing part of your story, sharing your heart, for helping people, being a friend, being a strategic alliance of ours, and being able to work alongside of you. It's really an honor and a pleasure, and all of the above. And I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts you've been given to serve and help others with a big heart, and look out for their best interest. And I want to also thank Gary for being a client, putting your trust in Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and with Jake Carpenter, right? This connection here, we're not going to let you down. We're honored to be able to serve you and your family. And I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts of perseverance and I guess even belief. I feel like you have a solid faith belief on what's possible, and taking that action, that massive action to go towards that way. And so it's encouraging and inspiring for us, right, on our side as well. We get to learn from our clients as much as hopefully our clients are learning from us. So I want to thank you guys both, and also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals, especially those who own mobile home parks and are struggling finding maybe some time freedom, some passive income freedom, thinking that they had it with building it, but now maybe there's enough there. they struggle with clarifying that plan, but unlocking what they want can be found in what's called a deferred sales trust as one solution. And we want to encourage you to dive in. We're also streaming on expert CRE secrets as well. So if you're a broker, financial advisor, and you're looking for ways to help your clients solve problems, you're going to want to know about the Deferred Sales Trust. You can check out the new book coming out. It's called Building a Tax Deferral Exit Strategy. We have some cool people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book. And if you're listening to this episode right now and you're curious about the Deferred Sales Trust, I want you to reach out to Jake Carpenter. And Jake can be reached at 509-591-9900. That's 509-591-9900. And or if you contact me, just let me know that you found us here. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you guys real soon. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please share this with someone who could change